I never thought I would one day be holding a gun, soaring through the air in a helicopter, chasing giant wild hogs across the vast plains of Texas. And yet, what once seemed like a scene from a movie has become my reality. What brought me here was Randy, an old college friend of mine. He had moved back to Texas after graduation, and when he called me with news of a daring wild boar hunt, I couldn't resist the temptation. At first, it sounded surreal. Why would anyone hunt from a helicopter? But soon, I learned the answer. Wild boars, or feral hogs, are one of the most destructive invasive species in America. They reproduce at alarming rates. One sow can have multiple litters a year, and they cause an estimated $1.5 billion in agricultural damage annually. They tear up fields, devour crops, kill livestock, and even pose a serious risk to humans. Ranchers, unable to control their spread with traditional hunting, had turned to drastic measures: aerial eradication. The morning of the hunt, the helicopter stood on the ranch airstrip, its rotor blades slowly beginning to turn, slicing the still air with an ominous hum. Before boarding, the team went over safety checks, weapon loading, and the flight plan. Everyone knew that once we lifted off, there would be no room for hesitation. From above, we would be the hunters, but the danger was real. A misstep in the air or a boar charging the wrong direction on the ground could turn the tables quickly. The helicopter lifted, pushing me back into my seat as the plains of Texas spread wide beneath us. The sun had just begun to rise, casting golden streaks across the grasslands. From this vantage point, the earth looked both peaceful and alive, but within minutes, the first herd of wild boars came into view. The sound of the chopper alone sent them scattering like shadows in the wind. Mike, our pilot, steadied the craft while Randy gave the signal. The roar of the engine drowned out almost everything, but the grunts and squeals of the boars below cut through the air as they darted across open fields and into thickets of brush. I raised my rifle, heart pounding. Shooting from the air was nothing like it at the range. The wind buffeted us. The helicopter swayed, and the boars were constantly moving, zigzagging, dodging, turning on a dime. The first shot rang out, followed by another. Dust plumes erupted as rounds struck the ground. Finally, one boar stumbled and collapsed, kicking up dirt as it rolled. The thrill was undeniable, but so was the realization. This was far from easy. When the herds were larger, Mike slowed the helicopter just enough for us to line up better shots. Timing was everything. The helicopter had to hover low enough for accuracy, but remain high enough to stay out of danger. A single miscommunication between shooter and pilot could give the boars the window they needed to vanish into the brush. From above, the devastation of our work was visible. Dozens of boars lay scattered in the fields. Some tried to regroup, only to scatter again as the chopper circled back. With every pass, we pressed the advantage. For anyone watching, it might have looked like an adrenaline-fueled sport. But in truth, it was a desperate form of population control. Left unchecked, experts warn that wild boars could eventually outnumber people in Texas. The efficiency of aerial hunting was undeniable. Unlike ground hunts, where boars often escape into the brush or woods, the helicopter forced them into the open. The more we flushed out, the more we could take down. Even with their speed and cunning, the hogs had no real chance once the aerial sweep began. Over the next 2 hours, Randy, Mike, and I coordinated every move. Dozens of boars fell, some instantly, others after a relentless chase. At one point, we circled an area so densely covered in mesquite trees that I thought nothing could flush the animals out. But then, the hunting dogs on the ground barked furiously, and sure enough, a massive hog bolted from the shadows, charging for safety. The helicopter tilted sharply as Mike repositioned, and with 2 precise shots, we brought it down. Every boar we killed told a story of survival. These weren't small creatures. They were giants, some weighing hundreds of pounds. Many were likely the leaders of their herds, the very ones responsible for tearing up miles of farmland. Taking them down wasn't just an act of control. It was a necessary strike in a war that had no clear end dot by the time we landed. The adrenaline was still coursing through my veins. The spoils of the hunt were gathered, some of the meat donated to local families, the rest processed at slaughterhouses. Nothing went to waste. This wasn't killing for sport. It was survival for the farmers, for the land, and for the balance of the ecosystem. For a while, after these helicopter campaigns, the land would rest easy. Fields would grow undisturbed, ranchers would breathe a sigh of relief, and livestock would roam without constant threat.
If you'll enjoy this video, please like and subscribe my channel for more information.